Ladies and gentlemen, friends and seekers of growth, today I invite you to embark on a journey that has the power to reshape your mindset, your habits, and ultimately your life. It's called the 10-Day Mental Challenge, a simple yet powerful commitment that has transformed the lives of thousands. This challenge isn't about physical endurance or external change. It's about taking control of the most powerful tool you possess, your mind. The 10-Day Mental Challenge is introduced to help people break free from the cycle of negative thinking, emotional reactivity, and limiting beliefs. It's about raising your mental standards and building emotional resilience. For 10 consecutive days, you make a bold decision. You will not dwell on any negative thought, emotion, or energy for more than a minute. Imagine that. 10 days of mental discipline, positivity, and unwavering focus on what's possible instead of what's painful. Awareness is the first step to power because it is the foundation upon which all meaningful change, growth, and transformation is built. Without awareness, we are like ships adrift at sea, carried by the waves of unconscious patterns, habits, and external influences. We react to life rather than respond with intention. But the moment we become aware, truly aware of what we are thinking, feeling, and doing, we reclaim our ability to choose. That single moment of recognition can be the catalyst for a profound shift in how we experience ourselves and the world. Awareness is not just about knowing what is happening on the surface, it is about becoming conscious of the internal narratives that drive our actions and emotions. It is about shining a light on the beliefs we hold, the fears we carry, the stories we tell ourselves, and the meanings we assign to events. It invites us to step back from automatic behavior and observe with clarity. When we develop this inner witness, we begin to see the difference between the truth and our perception of it. We learn to separate our identity from our experiences and recognize that we are not our thoughts. We are the thinker of our thoughts, the observer of our emotions, the creator of our responses. This level of awareness gives us power because it puts us in the driver's seat of our lives. When we are unaware, we become victims of circumstance. We react impulsively, repeat old patterns, and wonder why we feel stuck. But with awareness, we gain the ability to pause, to reflect, and to choose a different path. We stop blaming others and start taking responsibility. This responsibility is not a burden, it is the gateway to freedom because it means we have the power to influence our outcomes. Awareness also brings clarity. So many people move through life feeling lost or disconnected, unsure of what they want or why they feel unfulfilled. But when we cultivate awareness, we start to understand what truly matters to us. We notice what brings us joy, what drains us, what excites us, and what holds us back. We become more attuned to our values, our purpose, and our unique gifts. This clarity becomes a compass that guides our decisions, helping us align with our highest potential. Moreover, awareness allows us to manage our emotions more effectively. Instead of being overwhelmed by anger, fear, or sadness, we learn to recognize these emotions as signals rather than definitions of who we are. We can observe them without being consumed by them. In doing so, we create space between stimulus and response, which is where our true power lies. That space allows us to choose a response that reflects our highest self, rather than reacting from a place of pain or conditioning. In relationships, awareness is equally powerful. When we are aware of our triggers, patterns, and projections, we stop blaming others for our discomfort. We begin to communicate more honestly, listen more deeply, and empathize more fully. We recognize when we are closing off and when we are open. We learn to see others not just through the lens of our own needs, but with curiosity and compassion. This leads to deeper connection, greater understanding, and healthier, more fulfilling interactions. In the pursuit of goals and dreams, awareness keeps us grounded and focused. It helps us stay aligned with our intentions and course correct when we drift. It allows us to celebrate progress rather than obsess over perfection. It also makes us more resilient because when we are aware, we can better understand the lessons hidden within setbacks. We see failure not as a judgment of our worth, but as feedback to guide our growth. This shift in perspective gives us the strength to keep going, to learn, to adapt, and to ultimately succeed. Awareness is also the starting point for breaking free from limiting beliefs. These beliefs often operate beneath the surface, subtly influencing our thoughts and actions without our conscious consent. But once we become aware of them, once we catch ourselves thinking, I'm not good enough, or I'll never succeed, we have the power to challenge and change them. We can ask ourselves, is this belief serving me? Is it even true? And what belief would empower me instead? This process of becoming aware, questioning, and replacing old beliefs is essential for personal transformation. It's important to understand that awareness is not a one-time event. It is a daily practice, a continuous unfolding. It requires presence, curiosity, and a willingness to face the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. It means slowing down enough to notice what's happening inside us and around us. It means choosing to wake up again and again to the reality of our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. The more we practice awareness, the more it becomes a way of life. Some might think awareness is passive, but in truth, it is one of the most active and empowering states of being. It is the moment before change, the quiet strength before the breakthrough. With awareness, we begin to realize that we are not at the mercy of life, we are co-creators of it. We start to notice patterns and possibilities. We gain insight into our motivations and habits. We learn to live with greater intention, authenticity, and alignment. Ultimately, awareness is the gateway to all personal power. It is the foundation for emotional mastery, conscious decision-making, and meaningful action. Without it, we remain stuck in cycles of reactivity and limitation. With it, we awaken to our true potential and begin to live from a place of purpose and possibility. The journey to personal power does not begin with action. It begins with awareness. And once you are aware, everything changes. Because you can never again pretend you do not know. You have seen, and now you can choose. That is the first and most powerful step toward the life you are meant to live. Focusing on solutions instead of problems is a mindset that separates those who feel stuck from those who move forward in life. It is a powerful mental shift that redirects energy from worry and frustration toward action and progress. When a problem arises, the default response for many people is to dwell on what's wrong, why it's unfair, or how things should be different. This type of thinking tends to amplify the problem, making it feel larger and more overwhelming. But the moment we shift our attention from the problem itself to asking, what can I do about this? We step into a position of strength, creativity, and personal power. The way we think about problems shapes our emotional state. When we ruminate on the difficulty, we create anxiety, fear, and helplessness. We start to feel like victims of our circumstances. However, when we train ourselves to focus on solutions, our emotions shift. We begin to feel hopeful, determined, and in control. Solutions-oriented thinking encourages the brain to become more resourceful. It's like flipping a switch from stress to strategy. The energy that was once consumed by worry now gets redirected toward creating possibilities, exploring options, and taking action. Focusing on solutions doesn't mean we ignore or deny problems. It means we acknowledge them and then quickly pivot to ask better questions. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? We ask, what can I learn from this? Or, what's the first small step I can take to move forward? These types of questions lead to clarity, insight, and action. They keep the mind engaged in a productive cycle rather than spiraling into negativity or blame. In life, problems are inevitable. Whether in relationships, careers, health, or personal goals, challenges are part of the human experience. But how we relate to those challenges makes all the difference. A solutions-focused mindset treats problems as temporary and solvable. It sees them as opportunities for growth rather than as roadblocks. Every problem becomes a chance to strengthen skills, build resilience, and stretch beyond previous limitations. The obstacle becomes the path. One of the most empowering aspects of focusing on solutions is that it brings responsibility back to the individual. It's easy to point fingers at other people, systems, or circumstances when things go wrong, but blame keeps us powerless. When we take ownership and say, this may not be my fault, but it is my responsibility to handle it, we immediately regain control. Solutions require us to act, and action is the antidote to fear, paralysis, and despair. In business and leadership, the solutions mindset is especially crucial. Leaders who focus on problems tend to dwell on what's wrong, assign blame, and create a culture of fear or passivity. But leaders who focus on solutions foster innovation, collaboration, and progress. They encourage their teams to look for ways forward instead of excuses. They reward initiative and celebrate learning rather than punishing mistakes. This creates a culture where people feel empowered to think creatively and take ownership of challenges. On a personal level, solution-based thinking helps individuals stay resilient in the face of setbacks. Life doesn't always go according to plan. Sometimes we fail, sometimes we hit walls. But when we train ourselves to ask, what's the next best move? We avoid staying stuck in the past, we keep moving forward, we adapt, we evolve. That is the essence of resilience, not avoiding problems, but learning to face them with clarity and confidence. Another powerful benefit of focusing on solutions is the effect it has on relationships. In moments of conflict, focusing on the problem often leads to blame, defensiveness, and escalation. But when both people are willing to look at the situation and say, how can we fix this together? The dynamic changes. The conversation shifts from who's right to what's possible. It becomes about collaboration rather than confrontation. This approach builds trust, strengthens communication, and leads to healthier, more productive interactions. It's also worth noting that sometimes the solution is not immediate or obvious. Some problems are complex and don't have quick fixes. But even in those cases, a solutions mindset keeps us proactive. It keeps us asking, researching, experimenting, and adjusting. It keeps us open to learning from others, trying new approaches, and building on what works. It prevents the paralysis that comes from believing a problem is unsolvable. Even the act of looking for a solution creates momentum. That momentum can lead to breakthroughs we never expected. In the realm of personal growth, focusing on solutions accelerates transformation. Rather than spending years in self-analysis or rehashing past pain, solutions-oriented individuals ask, how can I move forward? They take what they've learned and apply it. They make decisions, they take steps, even if small. They understand that progress, not perfection, is the goal, and in doing so, they gain confidence, self-respect, and a sense of empowerment. Training the mind to focus on solutions takes practice. It begins with awareness, catching yourself when you're caught in a loop of negativity or complaint. The next step is to consciously shift your focus and ask a powerful question. What's the solution here? Or what's one thing I can do right now to improve this situation? Over time, this becomes a habit. The more you practice, the faster your brain will default to solutions rather than problems. Ultimately, focusing on solutions is a choice. It's a decision to reclaim your power, to live from a place of intention rather than reaction. It doesn't guarantee that life will be easy or that every issue will resolve perfectly, but it does ensure that you remain engaged, resourceful, and empowered no matter what comes your way, and that makes all the difference. When you shift your focus from what's wrong to what's possible, you open the door to creativity, clarity, and courage. You stop waiting for life to change and start becoming the change. Problems lose their grip and you begin to experience yourself as a capable, confident creator of your reality. That is the essence of personal power, and it all begins with where you choose to place your focus. Choose solutions. Choose progress. Choose the power of possibility. Negativity can become a deeply ingrained habit, one that affects how we think, how we feel, and how we act. Over time, repeated negative thoughts, emotions, and behaviors create patterns in the mind that feel automatic and familiar, even if they're harmful. These patterns influence our self-improvement, our relationships, our productivity, and our sense of what's possible. But just as these patterns were learned, they can be unlearned. The human mind is incredibly adaptable, and with conscious intention and repetition, we can replace disempowering habits of thought with new empowering ones. Replacing negativity with empowering patterns isn't just about thinking positive thoughts. It's about creating a new emotional and behavioral blueprint that leads to growth, confidence, and meaningful change. The first step to replacing negativity is awareness. You can't change what you're not aware of. Often negativity operates in the background of our consciousness. It can show up as self-doubt, fear, cynicism, or judgment, coloring every experience without us even realizing it. But the moment we pause and observe our thoughts objectively, we can begin to identify the patterns that aren't serving us. We may notice that we always assume the worst, talk ourselves out of opportunities, or replay past failures. Simply recognizing these patterns is powerful. It's the beginning of choice. Once we recognize a negative pattern, we must interrupt it. The mind follows familiar neural pathways like ruts in a road. To shift direction, we must break the automatic response. This can be done with a change in physical state, like moving the body, changing your breathing, or speaking out loud. When we physically disrupt the moment of negativity, we create a space where a new response can emerge. In that space, we insert a new pattern, a thought, belief, or behavior that empowers us instead of limiting us. For example, replacing "I always mess things up" with "I'm learning, growing, and improving every day." At first, this new thought may feel forced or unfamiliar, but with repetition, it begins to feel natural and even automatic. The key to creating empowering patterns is emotion. Logic alone doesn't rewire the brain, emotion does. When we associate a new thought or behavior with strong positive emotion, we deepen the neural connection. That's why it's important not just to say something empowering, but to feel it, to feel the pride, the excitement, the certainty. When we do this consistently, we condition the mind to prefer the empowering pattern over the negative one. The old route becomes overgrown and unused, while the new route becomes the path of least resistance. Another essential element is replacing, not just removing. The mind doesn't like a vacuum. If we simply try to stop being negative without installing something new in its place, the old pattern will return. So we replace criticism with appreciation. We replace fear with curiosity. We replace doubt with determination. We find a new way of thinking and feeling that better serves our goals and values. This is not about pretending that challenges don't exist. It's about choosing a more effective way to respond to them. Empowering patterns don't deny reality, they transform it. Reinforcement is the glue that holds the new pattern in place. Just like a muscle, a new mindset must be exercised to grow strong. This means repeating the empowering pattern daily, especially in moments of stress or challenge. Over time, what once required conscious effort becomes second nature. You'll find yourself responding to situations with more confidence, optimism, and clarity. Not because you're faking it, but because you've trained yourself to. Your brain, like your body, responds to what you repeatedly do. One powerful method for reinforcing empowering patterns is through visualization. By vividly imagining yourself responding with strength, calm, or creativity, you condition your mind to see this response as natural and expected. The brain doesn't distinguish much between real and vividly imagined experiences, so mental rehearsal can be as impactful as real-life practice. When you visualize yourself succeeding, staying composed, or showing up confidently, you're wiring those responses into your nervous system. Over time, they become your default settings. Language also plays a major role in replacing negativity. The words we use, both internally and externally, shape our beliefs and emotional states. Negative language reinforces negative patterns. But when we consciously shift our vocabulary to be more empowering, we shift our mindset as well. Instead of saying, this is a challenge and I'm figuring it out, instead of I'm terrible at this, we say, I'm improving every day. Words are not just descriptors, they are creators. By changing the language, we change the lens through which we experience life. Environment matters too. If we want to maintain empowering patterns, we must pay attention to the people and influences around us. Negativity is contagious, but so is positivity. Surrounding ourselves with supportive, optimistic, and growth-minded people strengthens our own commitment to new patterns. It's also important to limit exposure to toxic environments, whether it's certain media, conversations, or situations that reinforce the old mindset. Protecting your mental environment is an act of self-respect and discipline. Replacing negativity with empowering patterns also involves self-compassion. It's easy to judge ourselves for having negative thoughts or for slipping into old habits, but judgment only reinforces the negativity. Compassion allows for growth. It says, I'm human and I'm learning. It gives us the space to fall down and get back up without losing momentum. Growth isn't about being perfect, it's about being persistent. Ultimately, this process is about reclaiming your power. Negative patterns often make us feel like we're at the mercy of circumstances or emotions. But when we take responsibility for our patterns, when we choose to notice, interrupt, and replace, we become the architects of our lives. We realize that we are not our thoughts. We are the thinker behind the thoughts, and we have the ability to choose which ones to keep and which ones to release. Over time, as the empowering patterns take root, everything begins to shift. We see possibilities where we once saw problems. We speak with conviction where we once hesitated. We move with purpose where we once procrastinated. The world hasn't changed, but our perception has, and that perception changes everything. The journey from negativity to empowerment isn't always easy, but it is always worth it. It requires commitment, awareness, and a willingness to grow. But the reward is a life lived with greater joy, confidence, and freedom. When we change our patterns, we change our reality. And that change starts with a single decision: to let go of what no longer serves us and embrace what does. To stop feeding the fear and start feeding the fire. To replace the old story with one of strength. That is the path to lasting transformation, and it's a path we all have the power to walk. Emotional fitness is not a one-time achievement, but a lifelong practice developed through consistent repetition. Much like physical fitness, Emotional resilience and strength are not obtained through a single intense experience or a moment of enlightenment, but through daily habits, patterns of thought, and repeated emotional conditioning. When we talk about being emotionally fit, we're referring to the ability to manage stress, respond to adversity, stay grounded in challenging moments, and cultivate positive emotional states such as gratitude, compassion, joy, and determination. This level of mastery doesn't come by chance. It is built through intentional, repeated efforts to train the mind and emotions to respond in ways that serve our growth rather than hinder it. At the heart of emotional fitness is self-awareness. Becoming emotionally fit begins with recognizing our emotional patterns. We start noticing what triggers our anxiety, what thoughts lead us into spirals of doubt, and what situations cause us to shrink or react impulsively. But recognition alone is not transformation. It's what we do repeatedly after gaining this awareness that determines whether we stay stuck or evolve. Every time we catch ourselves in a moment of stress and consciously choose to breathe, to stay present, or to respond with patience rather than react with anger, we are building emotional fitness. Every time we take a setback and turn it into a lesson, every time we get up after failure with a renewed commitment, we are wiring our emotional muscles to respond with power rather than defeat. Repetition is the foundation of this process. Just as a single workout doesn't change the body, a single moment of emotional clarity doesn't change our identity. It's only through repetition, through daily, disciplined engagement with our emotional states that we create lasting change. Emotional fitness requires mental conditioning, consistently practicing gratitude, consistently managing stress, consistently choosing empowering meanings, and consistently shifting focus from problems to solutions. These small choices, when made over and over again, rewire the brain. Neural pathways associated with negative reactions begin to weaken, while those aligned with positive responses grow stronger and more dominant. Building emotional fitness through repetition also means developing rituals that support your mental state. Morning routines, evening reflections, journaling, meditation, breathwork, affirmations. These practices serve as emotional reps, strengthening your ability to maintain clarity and calm no matter what the world throws at you. When we consistently engage in these practices, we're training the mind to default to a higher standard of emotional response. Over time, gratitude becomes more natural than complaint, focus becomes more habitual than distraction, and courage becomes more familiar than fear. The beauty of repetition is that it leads to automation. At first, any new emotional habit feels unnatural. Choosing to forgive, choosing to let go of judgment, choosing to feel hopeful. It may feel forced in the beginning, but repetition transforms the unnatural into the automatic. What starts as a conscious effort eventually becomes a subconscious response. This is how emotional mastery is born, not through random inspiration, but through intentional repetition. The same way muscles adapt and grow through consistent training, the emotional system adapts and strengthens through consistent practice. Repetition also helps build emotional endurance. Life will always present us with stressors, losses, rejections, and uncertainty. Emotional fitness does not remove these realities, it prepares us to face them with strength and wisdom. The more we practice emotional control, the greater our ability to stay centered in chaos. We become less likely to be hijacked by fear or overwhelmed by anger. We begin to trust ourselves more deeply, knowing that no matter what happens, we have the internal tools to navigate it. That trust is built, not inherited. It is the result of choosing again and again to show up with power even when it's hard. One of the most effective ways to train emotional fitness is through reframing, learning to see experiences through a lens that empowers rather than diminishes. When something painful happens, the emotionally untrained mind might fall into victimhood or blame, but with repetition, we can train ourselves to ask better questions like, what can I learn from this? Or how can I grow stronger because of this? By asking these questions repeatedly, we condition our minds to seek opportunity rather than suffering. Reframing becomes not just a coping mechanism, but a way of life, a habit that transforms pain into purpose. Another powerful tool in emotional conditioning is visualization. Repeatedly visualizing ourselves succeeding, handling difficult conversations with grace, or staying calm under pressure wires those emotional states into our nervous system. Visualization is not fantasy, it's practice. Each time we mentally rehearse an empowering emotional state, we prepare ourselves to bring that state into real life situations. Over time, the gap between what we imagine and what we live begins to close. We stop reacting based on old patterns and start responding from a place of mastery. Consistency in emotional habits also creates identity. Every decision we make reinforces the story we tell ourselves about who we are. When we repeatedly choose discipline over comfort, gratitude over bitterness, love over fear, we begin to see ourselves as emotionally strong, capable, and grounded individuals. And once we identify with that version of ourselves, we are more likely to act in alignment with it. Our actions reinforce our identity, and our identity fuels our actions. This cycle of repetition becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that elevates our entire experience of life. However, building emotional fitness through repetition also means being patient and forgiving with yourself. Change is not linear, and emotional habits take time to shift. Some days you'll feel on top of the world, other days you may fall into old patterns. But that's part of the process. Emotional fitness isn't about being perfect, it's about being committed. It's about choosing to come back to your practices even when it feels difficult. It's about trusting that every repetition counts, even the ones that don't look impressive. Progress is often invisible in the moment, but undeniable in hindsight. Support systems also play a crucial role in reinforcing emotional patterns. Being surrounded by people who model emotional fitness helps normalize the behaviors you're cultivating. Conversations that are uplifting, encouraging, and growth-focused provide emotional feedback loops that strengthen your new habits. Just as working out with a partner can keep you accountable in the gym, being emotionally surrounded by growth-minded people can keep you accountable to your higher self. In the end, emotional fitness is not reserved for the few. It is available to anyone willing to commit to the process. It is not about talent or temperament, but about repetition and resolve. It is built through the small, seemingly insignificant choices we make every day. Whether it's choosing to journal your gratitude, taking 5 deep breaths in a stressful moment, or reaching out in love instead of pulling back in fear, each action is a rep. Each rep strengthens your emotional core, and over time, those reps build resilience, confidence, peace, and power. Emotional fitness is the foundation of a fulfilling life. It determines how we experience relationships, how we pursue goals, how we handle setbacks, and how we show up in the world. The more we train, the stronger we become, and the beautiful truth is this: it's never too late to begin. No matter where you're starting from, the path to emotional strength is always one decision and one repetition away. Now you may be wondering, can this really change my life in just 10 days? The answer is yes, if you commit fully. The transformation begins the moment you decide to take responsibility for your thoughts and emotional state. You begin to experience greater confidence, more clarity, better decision-making, and a newfound sense of inner peace. So, are you ready to take on the challenge? Are you ready to say no to negativity, to break the cycle of stress and reaction, and to train your mind for greatness? 10 days. That's all it takes to prove to yourself that you are in charge. Not your fears, not your doubts, not your circumstances, just you and your decision to take command of your mind. Because at the end of the day, your mind is either your greatest servant or your fiercest master. The 10-day mental challenge helps you reclaim the throne. Let's rise, let's commit, let's do this, one powerful, intentional, extraordinary day at a time. Thank you.